Changing your self-concept is a complete transformation of self. You're not faking anything, you're not pretending anything. And when you're not able to surrender, you stay in the realm of pretending or trying to be something that you're not. That's always going to feel fake. That's never going to feel fully integrated, fully embodied, and you're going to keep yourself in a cycle. I would bet that forcing your way into something has never gotten you anywhere. Or even if you have achieved what you wanted to achieve, it probably didn't feel very good on the way to get there. And it came with lots of obstacles and barriers. And that is what happens when we resist. That is what happens when we push and we force and we fight. If you want to embody a completely new self-concept, the most expanded, embodied, authentic, successful version of yourself, the version of yourself that fully lives and embodies your highest potential, you need to learn the art of surrendering. Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lorena. If you're new here, I'm a somatic self-concept and identity coach, and I help you to bridge the gap between who you currently are or see yourself as and who you desire to be or become. Today we're talking about the art of surrender, and surrender as a pathway to changing your self-concept. When you master this skill, it makes everything, the entire process, so much easier for you, because changing your self-concept is an ongoing process. Once you are doing this work and you're really doing it, you will continue to go through an evolution over and over and over again. And when you're able to fully surrender to the process, provided you have done the work that ensures that it is safe to surrender, things are going to fall into place much, much faster. And you're going to accelerate not just your results, but you're also going to feel much better and much more trusting and much more embodied whilst you are on the journey and afterwards. But there is also lots of misconceptions about what it means to surrender. So we're going to speak to all of this today, why surrendering is so important, what it means to surrender, how to really do it, and what you get out of it once you truly land there. I am so passionate about the topic of surrender because it has been a big lesson in my life. I am someone who is very persistent. When I want something, I go get it. And to an extent, that's a really good quality to have, especially in terms of the identity that you want to embody. If you want to embody a specific self-concept, you need to be fully committed. You need to be persistent. You need to go all in. So having that character trait has served me in a lot of ways. But the flip side, or the shadow side of that, is often that you can, and I used to, stay in resistance, and you can resist when there's no point in resisting anymore. And that's when you keep yourself really stuck. And I used to do this. I used to be so stubborn. And the idea of surrendering almost made me feel a bit weak. But truthfully, there is so much power in surrender. It is a sign of strength because it forces you to let everything rise to the surface. It forces you to face what is really hard to face and to be with what is really hard to be with. Getting cold. So it took me a really long time to fully embrace this and to truly surrender, and to know also to learn how to work with my resistance, because that is an important aspect of surrendering. It's that you can't really resist your way into surrendering. So you need to be able to surrender to the resistance also, first and foremost. And when I learned how to do this, a lot changed for me. And it's a big aspect of what I teach in my coaching program, Recreate Yourself, and what I get a lot of good feedback on, because a lot of the clients that I work with have big desires, have a big vision for their life. They know who they want to be. They have some clarity on how they want to feel, but they might come up against insecurities. They might not fully trust themselves. They might struggle to feel fully worthy. They might know that they're worthy, but they struggle to fully feel it. And they have parts within them, parts of themselves within them that are just massively in resistance because the desires are so big and because they aren't willing to settle or give up. And so a lot of the clients who come to me understand the importance of surrendering, but they don't really know how to do it in a balanced way. Because when you are wanting to surrender to a new identity, to a new self-concept, to your desires, and also to what you're currently perceiving externally, and we're going to talk about why that's so important, you need to strike the balance between still having the persistence, because surrendering does not mean you're giving up, and also being open and receptive and surrendered enough to actually let go. Let go of the resistance, let go of the struggle, let go of the pushing and forcing. And when you're on the flip side of that, when you say you're surrendering, and we're going to talk about what surrendering is not, but nothing is moving in your life, or you feel a bit stuck, then you might not actually be surrendering, then you might just be giving up or settling, which is also not what we want to do. We want to find the healthy middle and really be in that state, in that energy of openness, receptiveness, and allowing what you want and who you want to be to transpire and rise to the surface. So this already gives you an idea of why surrendering is so important. Number one, when you don't surrender, you keep yourself in resistance and you keep yourself stuck. Once you resist something, be that a circumstance, an emotion, something about yourself, you automatically turn it into a problem. Because now you're putting all your focus on it and you're saying, this right here is not okay and I need to fight it. And the moment we negate or fight something, we make it bigger than it actually needs to be. The second reason is you can only trust when you surrender, and you can only surrender when you trust. The two work together. Now, why is trust important? When you're moving into a new self-concept, into a new identity, that will feel very different from where you currently are at, provided you have some big goals, or how you want to see yourself and who you want to be feels very far from how you're currently living your life or showing up, or who you currently perceive yourself to be. If that is a big leap, or it doesn't even have to be a big leap, but it's maybe a leap that feels edgy or that feels unknown or maybe even a bit uncomfortable, you need a lot of trust to go all in and to persist in that. You need a lot of trust to move out of your comfort zone and to say, I am going all in, I am facing this, I am going over there, I'm not staying where I am, I'm not settling for less. It requires you to trust yourself, it requires you to trust the process. And I've been speaking about this because it's so important that you learn to trust yourself. It is one of the elements that I learned over time with working with clients. So many people don't trust themselves because they have been disappointed in their life. They have been betrayed. They don't trust themselves to make the right decisions. They don't trust themselves to go all in on what they want. And the successes that I've seen from my clients learning how to trust themselves, it's beautiful to witness because you can really see the shift in their identity, the shift in their self-concept, and you can see the potential that opens up for them. Self-trust and trust in the process is super important, and it also enables you to surrender. We resist when we don't feel safe to let go, when we don't trust that we're going to be okay. When we don't trust that we can have what we want to have, that we can be who we want to be. Because if you're going into a place in your consciousness or in your reality where you haven't been before, you need a ton of trust in yourself and in the journey, in the process, because of how foreign it feels. So, of course, if you don't feel safe, you're not going to trust. And if you don't trust, you're not going to surrender. And when I first started guiding clients through my signature method, self-trust was not something that I thought would be the focus, but it turned out to be a beautiful side effect of the process because of the safety that we built in their nervous systems. And when you feel fully rooted in yourself, when you feel fully solid in who you are and who you get to be and in the vision that you have for yourself, when you feel so safe and so able to face anything that comes your way, that's when you can surrender. Now, the third reason surrendering is important is because there is a very clear distinction and difference between externally changing something through pressure or external force and internally changing something through a shift in your self-concept, in your identity. And when I say shift, what I'm really speaking about is a deep internal transformation. So it's not, I don't mean you tap into what it may feel like to be this version of yourself that you want to be. I am speaking of it being fully embodied and integrated. And now let's say you have a goal in your life, you have a desire in your life, you have something that you want to make reality. You can do that through external force and action. And often we need to take action to initiate something, right? But the number one thing that is going to change things for you and that's going to make everything easier for you is when you work on your self-concept first. When you align your self-concept, your identity, with the version of yourself that already experiences that reality, that vision, that finds it natural to be in that relationship or to have that type of lifestyle. So prioritizing the change, the transformation in your self-concept is going to make the external results come much more naturally and much more automatically. And that internal transformation is a shift in your state of being. It's not about the doing. It's not about anything external that you're shifting. It's about what you're shifting within. And you want those changes, those shifts to be deeply embedded and integrated. You don't want to approach this from a surface level perspective because surface level changes lead to surface level results. Having the focus within and really knowing how to transform your self-concept, it will lead you to a level of surrender and a level of self-trust, and it will enable you to reach your goals, make your desires a reality much more easily. Now, surrendering is not just acceptance. That can definitely be a part of it, but truly, a true energy or a true state of surrender happens through your body, not just through your mind. Because you can look at something, you can look at your external circumstances and you can say, I accept this. I accept the way things are because I don't want to resist it, because I know what resistance leads to, but you can still not fully feel it. Which is actually something that I encounter a lot in people, not just when it comes to surrendering, but when it comes to how worthy they feel, when it comes to who they perceive themselves to be, the self-concept that they have. They have this clarity, they have this idea, they have this mental image or vision of what that would be like. They might even know, yeah, I'm worthy. They might even know, yeah, I'm capable of this. But do they feel it? That's a whole different story. When you are truly in a state of being surrendered to your reality, to your new identity, to the future that you desire, you feel this deeply in your bones. So because feeling is truly the secret here, it makes a lot more sense to approach it from a body-based perspective rather than from a mental perspective. So if you currently feel like you're in resistance and you know you want to surrender, you don't want to talk yourself into a state of surrender because that does not work. You want to approach it from the body first. And this is something that I have been teaching my clients in Recreate Yourself over the last few years since I started this program, and where they see a lot of shifts in themselves because they often understand that they need to surrender, and they sometimes even feel called to me and my work because they understand the importance of surrendering to their fears, to their emotions, to their reality, because they've been forcing and pushing for so long and it clearly hasn't worked for them. So they know that surrender is the pathway, they know that surrender is the way. But whilst they have this as a conceptual idea and they want to accept their circumstances, they want to accept their fears and how they feel, they're just sitting with it. And what we then end up working on, we get them embodied in a state of surrender through what I teach them in Recreate Yourself, and it completely changes their state, their approach. It completely changes how they feel so that they don't need to tell themselves that they're accepting of their emotions anymore. It's just what they become. And when you stop resisting your circumstances, your emotions, you're actually open and free to experience what you really want because there is nothing blocking, I want to say, the flow of that anymore. Because if you're currently experiencing a different reality from what you want, maybe you feel like you can't really call in the partner that you want to be with, maybe you feel stuck in your external circumstances or in the place where you live, maybe you feel like things aren't really moving in your life, It's not that you need to add something new on. It's often that you need to find a way to remove what is blocking what's already present for you, because we're never really creating anything new. We're just removing the barriers towards what you desire and what's actually already there. And you get to really feel that shift when your self-concept begins to change accordingly. So you're not just pretending anymore, you're not trying anymore, you have just become it. And that's when it starts to feel natural and the resistance drops. So as I said in Recreate Yourself, we approach this from a body first perspective. And that all has to do with the state of your nervous system. When you have tension in your nervous system, when you're basically bracing because you're preparing for a threat, you're preparing to avoid something that you've maybe experienced in the past or that you fear may happen in the future, you have an automatic tension in your system, you have an automatic tension in your body. And another word for that is resistance. And when you have this resistance in your body, you have this resistance in your state of being, because that's what your state of being really means. It's the state of your nervous system, it's the state of who you are being and how you are being and moving and living in each moment. But just so you get an idea of what it actually feels like when you're fully surrendered, you're not giving up, you're not throwing in the towel, but it feels like an exhale. It feels like relief. This is the feeling of you knowing with conviction, not force, that anything is possible for you. You knowing that you can be who you want to be. You knowing that what you want is already here for you. This is so different from having to tell yourself or convince yourself. It feels like an exhale. It feels like when you've had a really long, exhausting day and you fall into bed and you're so relaxed. That's what it feels like to surrender. So aside from the fact that it's taking the stress and the tension away, it just feels so good no matter where you are in the process, no matter how far along you are on your self-concept journey. Surrendering is a necessity to receiving. I'm assuming that if you're here, you probably have a certain goal, a certain vision, a certain desire that you want to make happen. Whether that's an external desire, a circumstance, or an experience that you want to have, or whether that is an internal desire of how you want to feel and how you want to show up and who you want to be and how you want maybe other people to perceive you. Now, you can only receive when you are surrendered, because if you are resisting, which is the opposite of surrender, due to you then bracing, like I described earlier, you're basically blocking the very thing you want. You can tell yourself you want it over and over again, but you're still blocking it because it doesn't feel safe to let it in, because you're not letting go. It's like when you're holding on to something, it can't come to you because you're holding on to it. So the thing with that is when you are surrendering, you're opening up to receive, but you're opening up to receive everything, the good and the bad, which is what makes it so hard. It would be easy to surrender. It would be easy to trust if you knew that every experience you had and everything you felt would just be smooth sailing. But it's not. If you're opening up to let things in, to let the joy in, to let the pleasure in, to let positive experiences in, if you're surrendering to that, you also need to surrender to the flip side of that. This is where the right support can also be really crucial for you to really be held in this. I think a big reason why my clients get to surrender so deeply and Recreate Yourself, aside from the method behind it and the process behind it and the shift that happens in their nervous system through the practices and the process, there's also a shift that happens in their nervous system and their state because they are safe in that container, because they are safe to let go, because they are supported by me as their coach. And having a space where you are so fully held and supported so that your body can actually relax and you're not all on your own, that really accelerates the process too. And it ultimately enables you to receive. It's also a thing, you can't really allow yourself to receive anything if you don't allow yourself to receive support, right? And you can't allow yourself to receive the good if you don't allow yourself to receive the bad. Receiving requires openness. Surrender requires openness. There's a big misconception that surrender means you're not doing anything. Surrendering doesn't mean inaction. In fact, surrender does require you to open, as I said, so that you can receive. And if that is what you want to do, then you need to act. You need to open up. You need to be vulnerable. You need to allow yourself to be seen. You need to show yourself. You need to be authentic. You need to take risks. You need to take leaps of faith. Surrendering is not the same as waiting. And surrendering is also a necessity to receiving because of what it does to your nervous system. Not only does surrender happen through you having safety in your nervous system and having this sense of relaxation and regulation in your nervous system, it's also about an opening. An opening in your nervous system to potential, to a potential future, to a potential new version of yourself. So it's a very somatic experience, the experience of surrender. It's not a mental experience at all. That can only be the inspiration to it, but it's not the experience of how it feels. It's very much a body-based experience. I would love to know if surrendering is something that you feel comes easy to you or whether it's something that you struggle with. I definitely know I've struggled with it a lot in the past, patience and surrendering. So leave me a comment below and share your experience with it. In next week's video, we're going to talk about the experience of never feeling chosen, which is also a big pattern that I had to work with. And I know many of you come up against this belief of not being chosen or this experience of not being chosen internally or externally. So stay tuned for that. And if you want to work with me directly, you can check out my coaching program, Recreate Yourself, which I have linked in the description box below. This is where you truly get to transform your self-concept and embody a completely new identity so that you're able to feel the way you want to feel, be who you want to be, and live the life you want to live. I'll see you next week.